So we prep for a vaccine and an immune system that is fully functionable, number one. But number two, supporting it in vitamin D and vitamin A and probiotics to vitamin C are really important, as is glutathione. Really important to help immune function so that it can make immunity. Now, if we can't make immunity, then we're supporting immune function so it can seek and destroy.
Welcome to Personalized by Vitamin Lab, the show where we dive deep into the world of personalization in healthcare. I'm your host, Dr. David Dizer. Please remember that the following discussion is for educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease. Speak with your healthcare practitioner first before integrating anything that you learned today. Join us as we explore the remarkable stories, breakthroughs, and possibilities that come with the pursuit of personalized healthcare. Welcome back to Personalized by Vitamin Lab. I'm your host, Dr. David Dizer, and today on the show, I'm speaking with Dr. Taylor Bean, naturopathic doctor, internationally recognized speaker, and founder of Tailor Made Wellness. Taylor's known for tackling some of the most complex and challenging and misunderstood health conditions, from Lyme disease to pandas to chronic immune challenges. Dr. Bean's built a reputation around blending science, intuition, and individualized care. But today we go beyond the clinic. We talk about where her deep confidence comes from, how she's cultivated a global community of trust, and what it takes to build a personal brand in the wellness world without losing authenticity. If you're a practitioner, entrepreneur, or just curious about how to lead with conviction in the health space, this episode is for you. Enjoy our episode with Dr. Taylor Bean. Welcome back to Personalized. I'm here with Dr. Taylor Bean. Taylor, how you doing today?
I'm great, thank you.
Thanks so much for coming on the show. I was saying off camera that I'm just really appreciative that you took some time to hang out with us today. I feel like I've got a lot to learn from you. Like I say on the show quite a bit because I'm like using it as my personal space for growth. So I really appreciate your time.
This is great. I'm learning about this podcast because I've also got lots to learn still. Don't we all? Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's one thing they don't tell you, hey, when you get out there that you're going to be learning for the rest of your life. That's what it's That's what it's all about. So thanks again. I'd like to jump right into some questions that I have for you. As you know, this show is all about kind of inspiring practitioners, naturopathic doctors, functional medicine doctors to do their best work and to personalize care as effectively as they possibly can. So we cover a wide range of topics, but one of the ones I want to cover with you is about confidence and clarity in your approach. I've admired your career since day one because of your level of confidence. And so I'm wondering about this strong sense of identity that you have and how it influences your practice and what really gave you that clarity and confidence to stand firm in your values.
Patience and the work that I'm doing and have done was also, of course, selfishly to learn what to do best for my own children. And I took that. The realm that I'm in, of course, is vaccines and vaccine optimization. And my true, when I say I abide by informed consent, I really do abide by that for my patients. And that's going to also be from personal experience. When I birthed my son, I really witnessed and felt and learned what true informed consent means. And from there, it was something that sparked in me of, I will always devote, when I'm working with patients, true informed consent. And it might not land well, and that's okay. And I've lost patients because I think of giving them something maybe they weren't prepared to hear, but I've gained patients because that's what they want. And how I am on my social media is actually exactly how I am when I work with patients. There's no difference.
Nice. They know what to expect.
You know exactly what to expect. How I speak in a podcast, how I lecture from a stage, I'm the same person on as I am off of it. And that's just how I am. I don't have two different people that I'm working with. It's just, this is what you get. And it's from a background to like all of us, be bullied in school. And I don't have time for it anymore. I don't have time for bullies. And I've noticed that when you speak your truth and you speak to what is true, the bullies will come out, but then they air their own issues when they're trying to talk to you. And you can see that they're not winning in that argument because there's nothing to win. It's truth, and be it rubs you the wrong way. That's frankly not my problem. But I'm going to provide that information, and you can take with it as you will. And a lot of times, the information I'm providing is from the CDC or from the BC CDC or from a paper. I'm just the messenger of it. And be it today and before COVID, parents want to know, what is the best for my child. And that's something that will be said to me. What is the best for my child? What is the best for my child? What is the best for my child? And it's hit home so many times. It's like, yeah, what is the best for your child? And not one size fits all. And so I suppose being in the arena of vaccines is a really interesting arena to be in, and you will see the best and the worst in it. You will see, people will come out with saying horrendous things. There's a lot of gaslighting, there's a lot of shame within that arena. And it's always been that way. And of course, post-COVID, it's sort of lifted a little bit, and more people feel safe to talk about it. And to me, well, the truth is the truth. So be it, not ever thinking I'm so courageous and what have you. It's like, well, that's fact. It's just black and white. And that's what we like about science, because it's black and white. Not all the time, but be it subjective, it's someone else's information, and we can be curious in that. But I suppose it's my patients and my own children of doing the best is giving me, shall I say, the courage to speak. And there's been so much great feedback that keeps coming of like, thank you for saying what you're saying, and thank you. And so, and the opposite, absolutely. But I always take a bird's eye view from it and see what is it that I'm doing and why am I doing it? And I'd like to leave a positive mark. And I think that also that when I know something, well, be it, does another person know that? They don't know what they don't know. And I've come to learn that, well, I think that sometimes what I have to say is absolutely not important. And then I share it. And it's like, I guess that was important. And that happens over and over again. It's the same thing when you're in med school. You don't ask questions because you're like, I'm going to feel like an idiot asking a question. And it probably wasn't until fourth year that I felt like, you know what, I earned this and I should be allowed to ask a question. If I feel like an idiot, then fine. But then when you ask that question, 50% of the class is like, yeah, I was wondering that too. It's like, why does this keep happening over and over again? And that's forever in your lifetime. And in being a human is a lot of other people are curious, but too afraid to ask or speak. And I think it hit home. It was a few years ago that a colleague had said to me, I'm so proud of you, and it's amazing that you're saying what you're saying. I could never do it. And part of me is like, I don't understand why you couldn't do it. Why can't you ask the questions? I don't understand what the problem is. And be it that's ignorance on my part of, I don't understand what the problem is. And maybe that's why I also speak to what I speak to. But I have done my work in terms of speaking to the college of, look, I want to talk about certain things. And I've had great advice as well of, you are allowed to be it's political or non-political, when you're doing it, as long as it's not harming a patient in what you're doing, you're free to speak on whatever you want to speak on. Mm-hmm. And so it gave me a bit of confidence to speak. And I think that it's weeded out people that I don't want in my life anyway, and the people that I do want in my life. And I've had another colleague say to me, if you allow for patients to ask questions, particularly around vaccines, you will create hesitancy. And that was like, interesting point of view. So if I allow them to ask, will create hesitancy. Actually, what's happening is when you don't allow questioning, that's what creates hesitancy. It is the absolute opposite. And that has been proven to me 100 times over. When, particularly in vaccines, if you're not allowed to ask, if you're not allowed to ask your healthcare provider, then they don't do anything around vaccines at all. And they come into my office 5 years later and they find me, and then we have a conversation about it. And it's like, why is there no one else talking about this? Why does no one else talk about something like vaccines or these hard areas in medicine? I'm like,
Mhm.
fear. And I'm not sure fear from what, though. Is it their own colleagues? And it could be where people are like, I can't believe you're talking about that now, because you see it in the functional medicine world of people who are always in women's health, and now they're
Mhm.
talking about a COVID vaccine, and they're absolutely ostracized for doing that.
For sure.
But to them, they're just like, enough is enough. I know too much, and I would like to share that. And so then, of course, your demographics of people that follow you change and ebb and flow with that. And to some, that's scary to lose. And then it's not. It's almost like a rebirth in a way of a new area of work, shall I say, that interests you. But you know, in the world of vaccines, it never gets boring. There's always lots. So,
For sure. Yeah,
and
never
lots of
ending.
personalities and people that will absolutely disagree with you, or they'll come heavy-handed at how they speak to you. But just with consistency with what I'm saying and how I say it has carved out, shall I say, not a niche, but just an impact where more and more followers understand what I'm talking about and how I'm going to deliver it. And then and people are still maybe trying to figure me out of, I don't understand, like, is she on one side or the other? And I'm
Yeah,
always in the middle. I am in the middle. That's where I am. I'm
you
not
are.
either way one left or right. Because I've noticed that both sides it's a dark area to be if you're really heavy on either side. And I've had patients come in and say, both sides, meaning I don't want to vaccinate, and then I do want to vaccinate, and both of them got the opposite opposing arguments and or yelled at that decided they did want to vaccinate, and another side decided they didn't want to vaccinate. And so
Mhm.
it's like, it's interesting why we can't really truly be supportive and or give your 2 cents and then leave it, but coming
Mhm.
from a really angry point of view when you're giving your opinion to people on what they should or should not do, because it really should just be personalized. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Wow, you finished it with personalized. I love that.
Vitamin Lab revolutionizes personalized supplements, empowering health practitioners to create tailored supplement formulations that address each patient's unique needs. Bring personalized health to your practice and choose from over 200 professional-grade ingredients to create vitamin formulas that improve patient adherence and result in tangible outcomes. All ingredients are sourced from the world's most trusted suppliers, and Vitamin Lab provides hands-on support to help you formulate and launch personalization to your patients. Say hello to a new era of personalized supplement solutions. Go to getvitaminlab.com/personalized to save $100 off your first formula.
So this is the clarity and confidence that I am talking about. I ask one question and we get a very well thought out answer with no prep, by the way, for the listeners. Zero prep. But you can tell the clarity and the confidence guiding the clarity there in your response. And I think that what I've learned is in my 10 years here is that even just bringing up the word vaccine makes a person who is very much I don't know how you would even call it, who hasn't had a discussion about them before, immediately think that you're anti-vax, even if you just bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be very, very stressful because, of course, I'm not anti-vax and kids are vaccinated. But you've navigated it really well. And you said you're middle ground, but I feel like you're middle ground in that example. And I wanted to pull out a few examples from this. You said a lot of really important words that I could highlight, like trust and questions and patience and some really, really, really important things that we can kind of tease out over the next couple of minutes here. But one of them is just kind of this right away, this feeling of, well, I mean, now people are coming to you for advice, but I mean in kind of social settings or in professional settings, people who haven't maybe listened to you very well or very much abundantly. What's your elevator pitch? What's your 2 or 3 lines when someone immediately thinks that you're anti-vax, for example, and you give this kind of rebuttal? What do you say?
Well, I'm all about pro-choice and being pro-informed. And shall I say, in my office, I probably own almost every vaccine book there is known to mankind. And I keep buying them just so I own them. And they're not around vaccines, but they look at my bookshelf and it's like,
Yeah.
are you I don't get you. Are you pro? I don't understand. I'm like, no, I am pro-informed. Hence the books. So, and I use I use their references. I haven't read them. I just use them for references, but I'm very much about pro-informed. I don't care what people decide to do in terms of vaccines. I don't. What I care about is that they are informed before they make their decision. That's what I care about. People need, want, must vaccinate. And so I am there for them for that. Is there maybe a better way from them? Is there a different sequence of the vaccines they want to do that might be a bit better? Yes. So then we work on that and we create a strategy around what they want to do or have to do or need to do. A lot of people come in, most always, have made the decision of what they want to do. And when I start any vaccine consultation, is where are we? And it's always parents, but are we on the same page? Allowing them to speak. And usually they're on the same page, but there are lots that are not on the same page. And then we get to go down that road together. I've also worked with couples that are divorcing, and it is only around vaccines that is just the last thing that they're hanging on to that they don't agree with around their kids. So we need to navigate that together and get to a place that they both agree with, or it's not going to look good if one doesn't agree and the other one has more of the authority. And if they want to vaccinate, then they'll just do them all and all at once, for example, which has happened. And so it's avoiding that, because even with catch-up schedule, there isn't evidence to prove that you should be doing all of them. There is no evidence doing COVID, flu, MMR, PCV13, meningococcal, et cetera, all at once. There is no proof of that. So then, and I will highlight that, and be it they choose to not do it or do it is up to them. So I know that I've done my job in terms of informing them of the information that is out there and that is not out there yet, and they can choose to decide to do with it as they please. And so that's where I will ebb and flow in where I need to be, because it is a journey when it comes to vaccines, where people either at the beginning of their journey, they haven't a clue about anything, and they're just like, so what do I do? I'm like, well, what should you do? What do you want to do? You are in the driver's seat and I'm the passenger for you. And so you keep asking me questions. What is it that you want to know? A lot of people don't even know what they don't know. So then they keep asking me questions, and then that takes be it a total left turn, and then this and that, and then be it finally like, okay, I'm understanding what I want to do now, why I want to do it. And be it, it's gone from, is it 2 to 3 or is it 3 to 2? Different vaccines. It really depends their understanding of why they're doing. Do you understand why you're vaccinating? Do you understand the infection? Do you understand infant immunity? Do you understand, why you shouldn't do Tylenol before and after? Your child has PANDAS and is a flare. Do you understand that may not actually be a good idea? So there's all these elements in terms of making the best decision for them. Because I've kind of feel like at this point I've worked with every different scenario possible in terms of from consultation of patients overseas in the States, Middle East, Southeast Asia, Canada, and there's different, we've got, different elements, because you're dealing either with humidity all the time, or you're dealing with, cold weather, which is part of infection in terms of caseload and or severity. But yeah, I think I've experienced it all, and so have a good grasp on what may be best for them. And I've lived in a country with mandates, so and that was in Singapore. So I've sort of been on all the spectrums.
For sure. You mentioned a couple of examples there, so I'd like to pull one out. In my career, it's really, really simple to go from having a truth to developing a strategy. Someone wants to improve their VO2 max. Well, the truth is we just need to do this. This is a strategy we're going to do, right? It's easy and it's kind of fun to talk about. I love it. It's great. Can you give me an example where your confidence has been centered in truth and you have this one truth, or maybe complex, this group of truths that has led to a strategy development? I mean, you started on one example a little bit, but maybe you could pull one out for me that would highlight it.
Well, the whole reason that I got into vaccines was the truth that I had 2 separate cases that came. I was living in Singapore. I'm a new grad and I'm a new mom. I was probably like 6 months postpartum at this point. So I had first example of a parent that came in and they thought perhaps their child had had an adverse reaction. I had no idea what I was dealing with. I didn't even know what an adverse reaction to a vaccine could possibly mean. Never learned that, never talked about that. I'm not sure. So here's some thoughts on what we're dealing with, but totally felt it was way out of my league. And then it happened again. And the second family, the mother was a lawyer. So she had really done her due diligence in terms of investigation, had seen a lot of different specialists within Singapore because you can very quickly. She wasn't getting what she needed or wanted, so she came to me. I was like the new kid on the block. I must have the answers.
For sure.
A brand new grad.
Isn't that what it's like?
And I think that I probably know the answers because I'm a new grad, but I was so embarrassed with myself because I didn't have any answers. And it was the second time that it happened and pretty close to each other. And it was like, what is going on here? So the truth behold is that they had had moderate adverse reactions, as one can, as they are listed in BCCDC lists the adverse reactions here in British Columbia of the potential. They just added a page in February of potential adverse reactions, and they're there so that they can be reported so that we can monitor if there's a trend in terms of reaction to specific vaccines. That's why it's in place. So after that, I then it woke me up of, I feel like this is an area, not knowing at the time, this is 2014, that I should probably start looking more into this. Maybe it's going to happen again. And I need to have solutions in place to support these people and their children. And of course, I'm a bleeding heart at that point. I'm a brand new mother and these parents are coming in and it's like, I need to fix this for you. I don't know what I'm dealing with, but I need to fix it. And so I head down and right away I did Dr. Ben Lynch's program. It was like 14 hours of genetics and then started scouring of anyone that did any kind of education around vaccines. There was a little bit. At that point, I had no idea who like Andrew Wakefield was, knew nothing about that information. It took me a couple of years to learn who he was. From that point, for those that don't know, can look him up. But I entered a world and started asking questions and I started getting some interesting answers. And it was like, okay. And then every single conference I went to, I was this annoying person that would go up into the, whoever had lectured around immunology or microbiology or of some capacity, like, okay, so here's the scenario. What do you think happened? What's happening? What's the mechanism of action? And then do I treat it with this? What about this? Would this work? And a lot of times like, yeah, that sounds pretty good, reasonable. Like they weren't even strong in there, like helping me. Like, what do you mean you don't know? Like, you're the immunologist. How do you not know what's going on? And so then I entered MAPS, the Medical Academy of Pediatric Special Needs conferences in 2016. And even at that point, like I was getting some answers, but not true on clarity. It's frustrating actually, because it's like, I feel like someone should know the answers to my questions. Why is this so hard? It was just an area that hadn't been looked at in depth of when you list an adverse reaction to me, if it's listed, how did that happen? What is the cause? How did we get there? What created it? So I can find either a solution to prevent it or a treatment to fix it. And so when I look at the lists, today now, what I'm understanding is a lot of that, it is inflammation is what it is, and be it it's neural inflammation, and I can understand how it gets there now. It's not a one-size-fits-all to cause. For causation, it is a multitude of things that lead to that. So to me, is when I work with families, I know now the potential of how that can happen. And yes, epigenetics plays a small role in that, but the lead up too. And understanding infant immunity has been a core to this as well. And Dr. Heather Zwinke is who really taught me and all of us around infant immunity. And then that has led to other papers helping me understand this further, which is fascinating. Infants can't make memory to viruses and bacteria, not until around 9 to 12 months. They can't. It's a locked-in process for infants. So, and vaccines are given at a time at 2, 4, 6 months when they're not supposed to be making immunity, but the schedule was built because the United States mothers go back to work at 3 months. So if your mother goes back, she goes back to work at 3 months. We do have a vulnerable infant going to daycare. So public health wanted to reduce infants going to the NICU So then they started the schedule at 246, be it to encourage the infant's immunity to make some antibodies to lessen the impact of that infection if they were to contract it. So pertussis, for example, or Hib or pneumococcal, be it they have a sniffle, maybe a mild cough, but nothing that they have to go to the NICU for. And mom doesn't have to miss work either. So that was around why public health put it in. And so the CDC then educated the rest of the globe around their schedule, and we all copied to some magnitude. But that's why the schedule is there. But then understanding how infant immunity works is very interesting because it can't make immunity very well, and it doesn't to a vaccine at 2 months. That's been shown. There are antibodies that are made a little bit at 4 months and then more so at 6 months, but really good at 12 and 18 months because that's where the immune system is now more developed to have the capacity to make immunity.
Fair.
Fine. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay, so you nailed it on the truth part. The strategy obviously makes sense from there, how you would talk a person through that. But what are the questions that you might help them answer that they don't know to ask? This is in strategy development, for example. This is also a selfish question because I don't know the questions to ask, and I've got a bunch of kids.
Sure. I mean,
like, so what are the questions as a parent that we should be asking you?
well, that's where the vaccine webinars came in for sure. My vaccine optimization webinars, there's 8 of them. And that was to help answer surface questions so that we can get some deeper questions. Because when parents come having watched, they do have, shall I say, just more in-depth questions that they're asking. Now, it's not you need to watch the webinars and that's what's going to save you or from all your questions. But a lot of times what happens is I will ask, do you understand the infections? We have to start with the infections first.
Right.
Do you know what Hib is? Do you know what pneumococcal is? You've got to understand the infection first because that's why you're vaccinating. A vaccine's point is for you to make immunity antibodies to that specific infection. So when you see it later, then those antibodies can mop up, sequester those antigens so they don't become a problem in your body and or your infant. So then you're not dealing with the infection. So it's preventative medicine is what it is. So do you understand what diphtheria is and tetanus? And do you understand how you get it as well? So what is it and how do you get it? Do you get mumps from sitting beside somebody, or you get it because you shared something or you kissed them? That's more, it's swapping spit is how you get mumps, versus measles is going to be aerosolized. So you've got water droplets. Are you going to get hepatitis B from sitting beside somebody? No. Are you going to get tetanus? No. So there's knowing how you get it. So then also that's like, well, what's my risk of contracting hepatitis B when no one in my family has hepatitis B? So maybe there's a really low chance of contracting hepatitis B. Now, Hep B specifically, a lot of provinces in Canada do not vaccinate till grade 6. In British Columbia, we start at 2, 4, 6 months. Alberta began that about 2 or 3 years ago, but a lot of the provinces don't start till then. So that just, in the United States, they do start at birth. That may change, but so there's different, in Singapore, they start at birth as well. So there's differences in terms of timing, but I do think it's important to understand how you get it. And then does that change your idea of when you would do it because you know how you get the infection? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I wish I could remember the book that we read when we had
Dr.
our first.
Sears.
That was the one. And that might have been on your advice, actually. That might have actually been on your advice. And this was kind of, now that I'm thinking back, this was a similar framework for the first few chapters. Is like, you need to understand what obviously the infections are, like this is the thing are you at risk or not? So this is important. And then I assume that you get questions around adverse reactions and how to navigate them and how to support children in their first few years of life, pre and post vaccine. Can you speak to a little bit about that? I'm obviously obsessed with children's immunity now because this has been a really rough year. I don't know if you saw it in your neighborhood.
It was a pertussis year.
Holy, oh my word. It's been such a challenge.
Everyone had coughs and they last forever. Yeah. And mycoplasma as well.
Wow. It's been really tough. So can you give us a little bit of some insight into your approach to childhood immunity, kind of how you start and the journey that you take them on?
So depending who's in front of me, if I have, a pregnant mom, and or let's say if I have a mother that their child is 2 or they're 1, really, I want to know how pregnancy was and labor was when I'm having a vaccine consultation. And then vaginal birth or C-section, breastfed or not, because this plays a role in immunity. And then we talk about infant immunity because I think it's important for everyone to understand. And essentially, infants are born, yes, not be able to make immunity, and that's because they don't have what's called Th1. They cannot produce Th1, and Th1 is suppressed by what's called IL-4, interleukin 4. It's suppressed. And interleukin 4 is there because it helps with cognitive and memory, is what it does in an infant. So it's really important. But the body has built this locked in Th2 with no Th1 and IL-4 blocking Th1. And that's just how it's built. So breastfeeding is, by nature's design, the best ways to protect an infant. A, they can't make immunity, and B, it's mom that provides those antibodies if she has those antibodies, but she also produces immunoglobulins as well. So she is protecting baby. Then we've decided to do X vaccines for said infections. So we talk about infant immunity and they understand the development of, and so then we get into timing of when do we want to start. But also, are we traveling? We're not traveling. Are we going to daycare? We're not going to daycare. So there's different also factors that play in with our timing as well. Because if we're not breastfed and we're going to daycare, then we're going to have an increased risk, certainly, of being able to contract. Now, really what it boils down to as well is susceptibility. Is the child more susceptible for that infection to create harm than a healthy child? Same thing with an adult. That kind of spills off with COVID because that was very clear as well, is those that do worse with infections and even with a vaccine is how healthy you are when you go in to contract or get your vaccine. If you don't have a strong immunity, first off, if you don't have an immune system that can make immunity, then your tool isn't going to work at all. You can't. And so you think, okay, well, just if someone gets it and everyone gets it, we'll automatically have 95% herd immunity. And that's just not how it works. So if you have a population more so that are struggling with diabetes, obesity, just metabolic syndrome, you're going to have a group of people that really cannot make immunity well to their vaccine. Now, to children can apply as well because those things are increasing too. But then we go back down to, let's say 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, they cannot make a strong immune process to those vaccines. And that's just a matter of fact. And so be it you choose to do it that time, but know that they are not going to get much immunity out of that. And or you decide to hold off on traveling to Europe with your 2-month-old if you're not breastfeeding, because then that does increase the risk of them contracting it. Now, there are nutraceuticals that certainly play into supporting the immune system. I mean, when it comes to viruses specifically, we rely on our immune system to eradicate that virus specifically. We cannot take anything that's going to kill a virus. It's our immune system that kills it. So we need to support the function of the immune system to seek and destroy. So this is why we have our innate immune system, which infants are born with an innate immune system. They seek and destroy. You got your macrophages, your dendritic cells, your neutrophils that swarm over to that infection, eat it, and then self-implode. So we need to support it to do that. And so 2 things is we support it to do that, and we don't do the things that suppress it. So you would never give sugar before you have a vaccine, like a donut. You would never do that. That's probably a terrible idea.
How about after though? How about after? Does that have any impact?
Sure. Well, I mean, it takes 8 days. First off, it takes 8 days to make antibodies, and 1 teaspoon of sugar suppresses your natural killer cells for 4 hours. So
Okay.
you just keep eating and keep eating and keep eating, sugar, post your vaccine. You're also going to get a poor outcome of immunity from it as well. So we would never do that.
Fair. Sorry, I interrupted you. Keep going.
That's okay.
On the donut question.
The donut, I mean, it kills me that anyone ever think that's a good idea. Sure, hockey tickets, that's fine, but not a donut. So the prep for a vaccine and an immune system that is fully functionable, number 1, but number 2, supporting it in vitamin D and vitamin A and probiotics to vitamin C are really important, as is glutathione. really important to help immune function so that it can make immunity. Now, if we can't make immunity, then we're supporting immune function so it can seek and destroy. And an infant can do that. Their immune system can seek and destroy. The web between our fingers, it's macrophages that eat that out to give us to distinguish between the fingers themselves. So macrophages do that. That's part of your innate immune system. So we support those to be able to do the things to seek and destroy. So an infant isn't useless when it breathes in an infection. It can it can actually handle it. It is the amount of infections that you expose that baby to could be the problem. So this is house crowding, this is travel, having parties at your house, or lots of people coming over and visiting your 1 month old and they're all breathing on your baby. I would say give it a month before you would ever do that, because it's the load on the infant that therefore is making it susceptible to that infection. And really the first 3 months, I mean, even with fevers, we want to be careful with children. We don't want fevers really 3 months and under, really, because then now you do have to have an intervention. So allowing the baby to grow means the immune system is growing and can handle infections that it's exposed to. And doing nutraceuticals that you can give to baby to also support itself, particularly if you're not breastfeeding. If you are breastfeeding, then you will be passing through your breast milk. About 10% of what you do goes to babe, and support its function that way. And then be it you are following trajectory of immune development as well. Because with the trajectory of immune development also means that breastfeeding is reducing too. And that's why immune development happens, because you're starting to reduce. 9 to 12 months, that immune system starts to really come in of the ability to make immunity, but mother is also reducing breast milk, or maybe it's stopped at that point. And so now babe needs to now make memory on its own. Antibodies from mother to baby last for about 3 months. So she lends her antibodies to baby. It's about 3 months. They still have some of those antibodies. It's not just immediate. So can have some protection still then, and then they will dwindle and go away. And baby now needs to make their own antibodies and memory. So they can get RSV, at 2 months and 4 months and 5 months. And then at 12 months, they get it again. And now they're making memory to it. So long lasting memory. So, leading into a vaccine, we're going to support the immune system by way of using vitamin C and glutathione and vitamin D and probiotics. I'd like to do things for the lymphatic system as well. And then homeopathy comes in always when I'm supporting someone with vaccines pre-post too.
Very comprehensive. I love it.
Even so vitamin C, so there was a study that showed low vitamin C status increase the shaken baby syndrome. And so it was going to, in terms of around vaccines. And so what that tells me is it's a histamine problem. And that's what certainly can happen, is you can really ignite your mast cells. And the part of inflammation, because the vaccine is inflammatory, it has to be inflammatory in order to create immunity. That is the process. So in doing so, you can stimulate mast cells, and now you have histamine. So vitamin C is really important to always do pre and post vaccine. And I usually start things around 2 weeks leading up, also to make sure that we're not reacting to these nutraceuticals either. Glutathione can look like potentially a histamine reaction if you don't have enough molybdenum. So we have to make sure that the baby isn't reacting to glutathione. So you wouldn't start all this stuff on the first day of doing a vaccine. Give at least a week, if not 2 weeks leading up. And then we know our storage levels are good for those nutraceuticals. And then you can continue to do 1 to 2 weeks post as well. So it's almost a month that you're doing, and that's worked really well. The worst case scenario has been fevers. Of all the children that I've worked with that are getting vaccinated, that has been the worst, which is expected because you're activating the immune system to respond to an antigen. And so a fever will kick up because the immune system is like, what's going on? Okay, there's something foreign here. So it's to be expected.
Totally. Expected and also very comprehensive. Thank you for that response. It's amazing. I want to take a quick step back before I took you down this strategy pathway. You had mentioned a few things about your connection with the regulatory body, I believe is...
Yeah, I spoke about the college.
That's right. But this question is around using the terms medical freedom and informed choice. These are politically charged terms. How do you navigate standing for these principles while maintaining trust and professionalism with the regulated health system, or with a regulated health system?
We have, so first off, freedom of speech, And second off, with the hat of the doctor hat on, is what you choose to say, could it hurt your patients? And so what I choose to say would not hurt my patients, because what I choose to say is information, and it's backed up, and it is not my frivolous opinion. It's going to be either the BCC said it, the CDC said it, here's a prestigious paper that was written, and it's almost non-negotiable too, because and back in the day I had done, well, my first lecture was actually at the BCND in 2016, I think, on vaccine optimization. And that was really the springboard to all the lectures I've done since then. And it was kind of the first, I think, that had been for many years of talking about vaccines at a naturopathic conference. And we had another one actually 2 years later that was more of a very more heavy pro slant. Mine was in the gray zone, but I didn't take sides. And so I think someone wanted someone to take sides. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't. And I don't. But I had said at that point, the advice was, Taylor, use other people's information that have done the work. And so I have taken that I'm the messenger of other people's information. I'm not the person that created the information, and I can't take credit either. And I will give credit where credit's deserved too, because they did the work. And I want to showcase their work and that information. And I think people should see it and be, if I'm the person that you're going to hear it from, great. And so that's where I feel that I've been towing the line, because I'm allowed to have an opinion. I'm allowed to think. I'm allowed to share things. But of course, in the same vein is what I'm saying, will it hurt my patients or not in any capacity? Meaning, am I steering them to not vaccinate or do X, Y, Z? I don't provide any dosages ever. I don't tell people they should do this in any capacity. And so it's different here, obviously, in Canada and the States, because they can be certainly a lot more liberal that way, and we can't. And I appreciate that we can't, because you could do harm if you start giving advice to non-patients. But it's more of, hey, vitamin D would be supportive and vitamin C would be important, because here's a paper to back up my reasoning as to why I use vitamin C, as an example. And that, freedom of information is, and access to that, and people appreciate that, and it won't do harm. Doing vitamin C isn't going to do harm. If anything, it's going to prevent the adverse reactions that I see listed that have potential to happen to your child. And so I know that those are the potentials. And we don't have good numbers, and we won't ever have good numbers, really, of how many people do have adverse reactions, because it's grossly underreported. And it will be underreported. It's a lot of work to report. It's a 3-page document. So there's a lot of paperwork that goes in. You also have to understand what you're diagnosing. And if you have multiple vaccines at once, you're not going to be able to report it, because you've got 3 that you're dealing with or 4 that you're dealing with. So then it almost becomes near impossible to report an adverse reaction. What are you reporting? So
those are great points. Yeah, excellent points. It makes me think about this conversation that we have a lot on this show, which is niche development. Finding your space, finding your voice within a certain space. You have found your niche, obviously.
Wasn't deliberate.
Yeah, exactly. What advice would you give a practitioner trying to define theirs? Is it about the type of patient, condition, a philosophy, something else entirely? How can we help them find theirs?
I think it's themes, similar themes that come in your office. And B, it becomes a love language for you. And vaccines has become a love language for me. And I've just taken that and held on to it and gone with it. And I love it. Unfortunately, I'm not strong in other areas of medicine as a result. It's coming back, because now being in a small town, I've got to be good at other things. And yes, I am relearning. But I've let go of a lot of other areas. Sports medicine was originally what I wanted to go into. I love doing, I do neuroprolo and, perineural injections, and I love it. But and even doing, spinal adjustments, I love doing that in school. And I even TA'd it for a couple of years, but I've let it go so that I can really understand this area. And there's so much charge behind it. And there's a lot of different things that you could find, and I think it's themes. And when you hear people come in like, no one's talking about that, no one's talking about that, no one, I can't find any information on this. How? And it could be anything. I mean, really, it could really be anything. And or you just stick to something that is your love language and your passion, but it feels like other people are doing it. And that's okay, because there's absolutely space for you. You will always do it differently than somebody else. And you got to know that you will. Lots of people love doing gut health and SIBO, lots of hormones, women, but you do it differently. You say it differently. Your body language is different. Your eye contact is different. You look different than the other person. Like, you will do it differently. And so that's why there's space for all of you in finding a niche and doubling down on that niche and whatever that is. And I keep seeing it where people do it. It's skin, UTIs is a big one that's, come out as a niche, because there's so many people that have, and then you become so good at it. And you know all the little itty bitty nuances to whatever that niche is. And then it builds from there. And then you've got colleagues asking you questions, and then you learn from that, and then you become, authoritative figure within that niche. I would say go for the ones that are more politically charged, because no one else does.
It served you well. Are you working on any new niches right now?
I am working on creating a journal, which will morph into a book around vaccine optimization. And I am picking right now whom to work alongside me. I have a pediatrician, and I might choose also a homeopath also, and an immunologist is next, to sort of join me of hitting different big arms of the conversation. But a journal is first. The topic is so huge in terms of vaccines. It's a massive abyss. And I can't say I'm going to take on any new niches. I think because it's, I've invested, and that's fine. I've invested so much time and effort, and I just love it. I mean, and my lectures have really only ever been vaccine optimization. Also, pandas and pans has been another one. And then I'm going to do one actually at MAPS, particularly on vitamin A, because vitamin A is a vitamin. It's a beautiful vitamin. There's lots to it. And there's been fear around vitamin A. So pick the ones that people seem to be afraid of and go with that niche, because you will uncover. Someone's got to do vitamin K, actually. Someone's got to revamp vitamin K and hone in on that one. Would be great. You could be the vitamin K king or queen, injected, that's used at infancy, and just go with it, because we need people to actually niche out, because then you will do all the hard work, and then just give us the Coles notes of what you've learned of that particular, concept or niche that you're doing, because we don't have time. We really don't. And so you need people to carve a niche, because I know you're going to look up everything. So, but yeah.
Well, this is now this is a show for ideas for niche development. Thank you so much, Taylor. This is amazing. Great. Come on.
Welcome. It's my pleasure.
You can leave with that. Can you speak a little bit to authenticity? When you speak, I mean, it's authentic. It's fully there. You're present. You've obviously you have the experience to bring you to this place, but I don't know if it was your upbringing or whether or not it was the embarrassment. I know in my practice, the embarrassment as well has been a driver and has improved my care for sure a few times. But you seem deep rooted in just your authentic being and being present. Can you speak to that a little bit?
I've been challenged definitely in my career and been told to sit down, and not that I don't think I was being fully authentic at that time, when I was reminded of, you're not as good as you think you are, and you don't have all the answers. And so I went through a period there of some real learning, and from non-naturopathic doctors, from parents that knew a lot. And I was trying to enter a world of working with complex pediatric cases, and was told I didn't know what I was talking about. And so that taught me a lot. And having children has also taught me a lot. That has really pulled out a real authentic side, because they can smell the BS. So I've just, it was always, I would say, there. And then I have got ahead of myself, and then I've sat back because I realized that I'm not going to give empty promises or say, yeah, I know how to fix this, because that I didn't know what I was doing. And so saying today, now I don't actually know this, has been an excellent form of practicing, because then there isn't also expectation from the patient, and then they love that authenticity, that I'm being real. Like I'm gonna have to sit with this, and there's a big appreciation for you, because there's sometimes an expectation that the ego is high. You have a doctor in front of your name, and so you obviously know it all, and that's part of your training, and you're gonna come up here with your nose up in the air. And it's like, no, actually, I'm not. And I've worked with even medical doctors who've been in the field for 40 years, and I've really watched them and their authenticity. And still, I went through a period there, even going to MAPS, where, pediatricians have been in it for 40 years, and them saying, I don't actually know how to fix that. I don't know. And it's like, what? You don't know? You're actually saying it out loud? Wow. But the respect is massive for that. And I have high respect for those that can really be real with their patients, and be who you are on Instagram as you are in front of your patients. I mean, don't be someone that you're not. It'll come out real quick. It really will. And that did happen to me. And so I've learned from that, and self-growth from that, and backed off on that piece of being like, I can fix this, and I know this, and I know the answer to this, because I don't. And that's okay. And seeking answers from someone else and collaboratively working with people has been a game changer. And working with others. And so I think that's where it comes from. Yes, from be it my childhood, but I would say my patients and non-patients have really taught me.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Yeah, no, absolutely. I can hear it in your voice. I can hear it in your voice. We've learned so much from you today, Taylor. Thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Oh, awesome.
Where can people learn more about you? Where should we connect with you on social, or what's your website?
Yeah. Instagram is probably is a place where I post my thoughts. So Dr. Taylor Bean on Instagram. And then my website, so I have drtaylorbean.com, and then vaccineoptimization.com. So that's where my vaccine webinars live. I have a vaccine savvy program for parents. And so that's been really useful, because we'll have 3 consultations and the webinars all bundled together. I do find sometimes it's 3 is what we need in order to get you where you need to be. I would say that's where you'll find me, those 3 places. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Oh,
we'll hope to speak with you again, and
absolutely.
Have a great day.
Thanks for joining us for today's discussion. What about today's podcast resonated with you? Be sure to tag at Dr. David Dizer and at Get Vitamin Lab. If you're learning from and enjoying this podcast, please let us know by subscribing to our YouTube channel and follow the show on Spotify and Apple. And don't forget to leave us a review. It's the best way to support our podcast, and it helps others find us. To learn more or book a demo to explore what personalization could do for your practice, please go to www.getvitaminlab.com/personalized.